Around the turn of the century, the 6th generation of games finally came out, and with it came online gaming. Hello, my name is Jonathan Sherwood, and today we're going to talk about how MMOs changed the video game industry as a whole. Now, this generation didn't invent MMOs per se, but when you think about the genre, you think about a lot of the games that had come out around this time. Many of the giants, like EverQuest, and of course World of Warcraft, and Dark Age of Camelot, started to come out around this time, and that's when some of the most defining features of what an MMO is started to show themselves. Rather than being a basic text-based game, which a lot of the MMOs at the time were, graphics were starting to improve and actual gameplay elements were being introduced, which made it more of a video game and less of an interactive reading experience. And this had made prime time for when some of the greats could be born. Stepping into the ring with the big kids, Jagex was founded by two brothers creating Runescape. Runescape may have been a little clunky next to its competitors, but its Java-based scripting system actually allowed it to be played on the browser, and the fact that it was free to play meant that it was accessible to almost anybody and everybody. So what was Runescape? Well, aside from obviously an incredibly thrilling action-packed adventure game, look at him go. RuneScape actually had a lot of things to offer. The core of the game was mostly about leveling up different skills and abilities. You could cut down trees, you could fish, complete quests, and of course, who doesn't love a long trail of lighting things on fire? Yet more than just that was also the community. Still, to this day, there are bustling cities with trade and conversations and... oh no. In fact, the only thing that's changed about the community is their technology. Now they've even got websites dedicated to the market exchange in the game that you can live time see whether there's something profitable or not. It's a way that the community is still finding new ways to make the game fun for themselves, despite the fact that nowadays it's actually the older version. See, as time went on and advancements continued, RuneScape started to get a completely different look. In fact, the very first version of RuneScape most people don't remember because it only lasted a few years, whereas the later version, now called Old School RuneScape, was the dominant design that most people recognized. In fact, it's still getting updates today despite the fact that it's not their main IP, which is now RuneScape 3. So if a game is old and outdated as RuneScape with nothing to do but grinding can stand the test of time, how well does a game that pushes its generation to the max stand up? Not 1 year later, Final Fantasy XI was released by Square Enix for, well, basically everything. It was on PlayStation 2, Xbox 360, PC. Because of the fact that it had to be on these consoles, it was powerful. But because it was powerful, it also had a monthly subscription. Yet this wouldn't deter sales, not for Final Fantasy XI. In fact, it had won the grand prize for the Japanese Consumer Entertainment Software Association for 2002, and actually won 2003's PC MMORPG Game of the Year from IGN. So with all these accolades, it must have played absolutely nothing like RuneScape, right? Well, actually, Final Fantasy XI played a lot like RuneScape. While you didn't necessarily only level up a skill, the one thing that made 11 stand out was the fact that it had different classes that you could equip and unequip. Your average MMO, you make a class, you stay the class, and you have to be that way from level 1 to 100. Whereas with Final Fantasy XI, your one character could play as anything you wanted to be. That gave you a tremendous amount of choice. Additionally, things were expected to be done in a party sense more than doing anything alone. In RuneScape, you were free to attack things to your heart's desire, whereas in Final Fantasy XI, you'd pretty much be toast if you weren't with a huge party. Yet, here we still see the same slow, turn-based monster hits, player hits, with the occasional ability, playstyle. So what did Final Fantasy do to survive the years? Expansions. And lots of them. While the gameplay has stayed relatively the same, the expansions give the opportunity for players to see new content, new stories, and new classes. And with all this new content, they're actually able to keep their subscription model after all these years. So despite the fact that they have a new MMO out called Final Fantasy XIV, their original is still going strong. So then, what is it? What makes these two relic of games still beloved today? Well, the first important thing to note is the fact that both of these games knew exactly how to target the biggest audience possible. While RuneScape used the fact that they were a browser-based game that was free to play, therefore everybody who wanted to get into the game but didn't have the money could, Final Fantasy decided to go the other approach, which was to be on everything they could possibly manage, all the consoles, the PC, and while they did have a subscription-based, that also hits a massive audience. Not only that, but their worlds were incredibly immersive. Despite the low graphics of RuneScape, there was still a lot of diversity, such as their barbarian villages versus a castle, whereas in Final Fantasy XI they were able to take their engines to the max by having beautiful landscapes like the Heavens Tree. With the level of heart put into these series, it's no wonder that the community is still so strong. Conventions and gatherings still happen today with things like Runefest and with the Final Fantasy XI Fan Fest. It's a fantastic opportunity for fans of the series to be able to meet up and share their experiences. And with dedicated fans like that, I don't think these series will be going anywhere for a long time. So, what does this have to do with 6th generation games, or MMOs as a whole? Well, first of all, I think these demonstrate very well that despite the fact that these came out almost 20 years ago, they're still loved today. That means whatever formula they were using must have stuck on. It also showed that people like the connectivity and the communities. It doesn't necessarily have to be an action-packed thriller so much as just an experience for people to be able to share together. It also tells us when to grow and, well, when not to. They were willing to expand whenever the technology grew without them, yet they also held true to their roots and didn't forsake everything that they knew in order to meet up with the new market. Overall, I think the 6th generation of games had a massive impact on the MMO community, as well as video games as a whole, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. This was Jonathan Sherwood, and thanks for watching.